Alright, welcome back, guys. Super happy to be here again. I love doing these things, and every time I see something new, I usually like to make one of these for it. So, on this entry for today, we're going to talk about the personal history of David Copperfield. Now, I don't know if any of you know about this movie. It's only a year old. I think it got a lot of good feedback, a lot of good publicity. It is very much a good movie. Now, I know that when you hear the word David Copperfield, you automatically probably think of high school, because I know like a lot of people, this was one of the books that was kind of forced on me in high school, along with like The Great Gatsby and what's this one by J.D. Salinger, Catcher in the Rye. All these infamous novels written by these great writers. That's like you have to read them. So from what I remember, I don't really think I got attached to the book like that. Like, there were very few books in high school that I really did get attached to. One of them being The Hobbit, another one being mostly like Shakespeare related things. So I don't really remember a lot about the David Copperfield story. But this film is a loose adaptation of that novel. I don't know a lot about its source material. Of course, it's written by Charles Dickens. Apparently, the novel was kind of his interpretation of his own life through the life of this guy, David Copperfield. Something along those lines. But it's very enjoyable for the film that it is. Like, even if you've read the book, you haven't read the book, even if you despise the book, it's still worth watching. Like, when they came out with The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire, that was a fantastic film. And I'm like, I don't remember the book being anything like that. So that's kind of how I feel with this. Like, this doesn't seem anything like what the book was to my young mind. Maybe I should read it again, give myself a little bit more of an adult perspective of it. But, I got a lot of things on my plate. Maybe I get to it, maybe I don't. But what I did get to was to watch this film. And it's good. It's very, very enjoyable. I appreciated just about all of it. Of course, it's very modernized. Not to the extent of, like, it's still based in, like, 1950s Victorian era. But it's like, if you know anything about history, and you know anything about just American history in and of itself, you know that there weren't any high royalty black families. There were no high royalty Muslim families. There was no interracial marriage or anything like that. So again, I get that it's an interpretation, but and I don't think that takes away from it. It's just go into it understanding that, yes, the main actor, Dave Patel. The main actor, Dave Patel, who is a great actor. I love seeing him in just about anything that he gets put in. I know he's in Chappie. He was in a big show for HBO called The Newsroom. He's a great actor. And he does this role expertly. Like, he is really, really good as the character David Copperfield. But, like, you have him playing David Copperfield, which is okay. But then you have, like, he was born from, like a white couple. You know what I'm saying? And then you have his best friend in school being a white dude, and his mother is this high royalty black lady in the 1850s. Like, I get that it's an interpretation and you're allowed to do whatever you want with it. It's still a fantastic movie regardless of that, but don't go into it expecting, like, high profile of the era casting of any sort. It doesn't take away from it, of course it doesn't. Everybody's fantastic in it. It's a great film, but his historical accuracy is definitely out there. And I do think that might be from the interpretation of the novel itself. I don't know, like I said, I don't remember the novel, so I don't know exactly how he portrays these characters, or if he doesn't. Like, if the book doesn't portray anybody in any sort of light, then maybe that is an interpretation of, say, the screenplay writer or the director saying, you know what, he doesn't say any of these people are anything. And what I'm glad that didn't happen when it comes to that kind of stuff is that there was no real backlash for it. Like, I remember a couple of years ago when the Hunger Games first came out, and the little girl that Katniss, like, becomes attached with in the games, that was played by a very young black actress. She did a great job. But a lot of people got pissed, and they were like, why is this black actress playing this character? I don't get that. Like, there's no thing in the book, and I read the entire Hunger Games series, nothing in the books are anywhere correlated to saying who's of what color or nationality or religion or anything like that. So that's all to interpretation. How my mind interprets a character could be different from how yours is. And to the people who wrote the screenplay to create that movie, it was obvious that even though Katniss was of one district, this other girl was from another one, and maybe their cultures aren't the same. So interpret it in that way, I feel it's good to have diversity, just like this movie has diversity. But the issue with what David Copperfield did is that it just doesn't really match. It doesn't really make sense. And again, I'm not saying that takes away from the film. I'm just saying that this is an interpretation from whoever the screenplay writer was and how they made their casting choices, how they made the directorial choices. And it doesn't take away from the story, but be expected to go in there and just be like, wait, is that the mother? Is that the teacher? That's his father. No, that's not his father. Wait, that's him. Like it was a lot of that for a little while, which again, there's nothing really wrong with that. Once you kind of get the hang of it and you feel out like what's going on in the movie, it's still just as good of a movie. You know what I'm saying? Even if you don't pay attention to that stuff, and I don't even mean to bring attention to it, I just feel like you have to go in there, and when you see that stuff, it might bother you a little bit because it's not of the era. So when you're talking about films that are of the era, you want it to kind of fit as much as it could. A good example of that is like, I did an entry for this not too long ago when I talked about the Umbrella Academy. In the second season of the Umbrella Academy, they go back to the 1950s. And in the 1950s, there was a huge civil rights movement. There was a lot of racial tension in America. And one of the sisters is played by a black actress. And she's experiencing that firsthand, and she's been part of the civil rights movement. That's historical accuracy. That's saying that, okay, we're not just going to ignore the fact that we're bringing her back in time to a time era where there was so much segregation, and we're not going to not mention it. We're not going to make it as a focal point of the storyline. So being that there is so much diversity in the film, it doesn't take away from how good the quality is, but it does take away from its sense of era, its sense of setting. And just go in there realizing that, but also go in there very much expecting a very, very good performance by everybody who's in it. It is so well done and so well directed and thought out. It's got a lot of quirky moments and a fantastic cast, by the way. A fantastic cast. Not only is Dave Patel in it, who's a good actor, and he's got a really good record building up for him, and he's getting more under his belt, and he's getting more noticed and more recognized, but he's also got a huge supporting cast along with him as well. He's got Peter Capaldi, which I know a lot of people know him as Doctor Who. He does a great job in that film. It's got Gwendolyn Christie, which some may or may not know is the actress who plays, how would you know her? She's behind the helmet in the new Star Wars trilogies as one of the stormtroopers. She's Brienne of Tarth from the Game of Thrones series. She does a very good job in the film. Who else has it got? It's got one of my favorite actors, Hugh Laurie. Hugh Laurie plays his uncle, oddly enough. But yeah, it's got Hugh Laurie, and he does a great job. I love Hugh Laurie. I feel like almost anything Hugh Laurie touches is gold, no matter what it is. House is a fantastic show. I'm actually a huge fan of Tomorrowland, which a lot of people didn't like, but I liked it. And that's another Hugh Laurie movie. Who else is in this? Tilda Swinton's in it. She plays his aunt. And again, it's weird casting choices, but they are very, very good in the film. They do a great job. There is no loss between like any sort of dialogue or anything. The acting's great. Every bit of this movie is a joy to watch from beginning to end. It is so good to see a portrayal of a book that I once hated as a kid and now I love now. But I'll be honest with you, I might never go back and read the book. I might not care enough to even think about it. I've got this movie. That's all I need. One funny thing that I do want to mention is that when the movie started, about halfway into it, I had to pause to get a drink. And then my wife was like, we're already an hour into this movie and there's no magic. Like, where's the magic? And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, it's about David Copperfield, like the magician. Like, where's all the magic? I'm like, this is about the David Copperfield book. And she's like, no, there's a David Copperfield magician. And I'm like, I know that, but did you think that magician was around in the 1800s? So it was a real nice, like, back and forth because she didn't know about the movie. She's not big on, like, trailers and movie posters or anything like that. I knew about the movie. I was looking forward to watching it. And when I brought it to her attention, she was very enthusiastic, but she was also kind of drawn back because, like, she was expecting magic and stuff. So that was really funny, just on a personal note. But on a note where it's like, I'm here to give you guys feedback on a film and all that stuff, It's very, very enjoyable. All right, it's not something that you're going to be wasting your time on, and it's definitely not going to be something that you're going to look back and say, that isn't a good. It is a very, very good film. It is definitely worth the watch. It is definitely worth the story. Even if you hated the book in high school like I did, I would suggest to sit down and give it a chance. All right, guys, thank you again for coming to the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, give it a share or a follow. Tell your friends about it, any of your movie fanatics. I really appreciate it. If any, it's on a lot of sites right now. It's on Apple, it's on Google, it's on Spotify, however you're listening to it. Give it a listen, give it a share, let people know. And if there's an ability for you to give feedback on any one of those platforms, shoot me some feedback. I'd love to hear what you guys think. All right? Thanks again, guys.